Good morning. We begin with the changing Texas legislature and two new faces who will represent North Texas when the House and Senate reconvene in a couple of months. Both are Democrats going to work in the Republican-controlled Capitol. Rhetta Andrews Bowers is state representative-elect for House District 113, the seat vacated by Republican Cindy Burkett. And Nathan Johnson is state senator-elect, defeating Republican Don Huffines here in Dallas. Joining the questioning, as always, Bud Kennedy of the Star-Telegram. Good morning and congratulations.
Good morning, Jason.
Rebecca and Nathan.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Big night on Tuesday. Nathan, let's start with you. What factors do you think were most important for your race facing an incumbent and helping get you elected?
I think it was an overwhelming wave of anti-extremism, and there have been legions of fairly disaffected, disillusioned voters who felt like their vote didn't matter, and in this climate they felt like it really did matter. And at the same time, we had huge numbers of lifelong Republicans who didn't recognize their own party any longer and who were willing to go out to the polls and vote across party lines to get Texas back to the productive history that it's had for a long time.
And Rhetta, you won an open house seat, but how much do you think that Beto O'Rourke helped get people to the polls to get you and others elected?
I think Beto had a great positive message, and so I do think that we were working up and down the ballot. So I think the Beto numbers definitely helped us in great ways, but we were always at the doors. We knew that we had to be out at the doors with a message, because I think the constituents in the district and residents really wanted an advocate that was going to fight for public schools and health care for all. So I'm excited about the moment and ready to advocate.
Have you guys caught your breath yet?
Absolutely not.
No.
Not yet. And that question wasn't meant to minimize the hard work you've done, because you and I talked, what, 18 months ago, and you were hard at it 18 months ago trying to get into that
Absolutely,
seat.
Jason. Back in San Antonio.
At the state convention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about 2020, why don't we? Democrats always do well in these midterms when there's a Republican in the White House. They did really well in 2002, the first year of George W. Bush. But, you know, what's to keep your district? It was a 10-point red district last time. What's to keep it from flipping back in 2020?
Well, I think I have to say that, you know, we had to go straight to Austin the next day. And I want you to know that we are definitely, from the state party on, looking at 2020 and 2022 to make sure that that doesn't happen, because that could be a real possibility. I looked at, of course, some of the other districts which are truly safe in blue and recognized that mine looked checkered. I mean, it's not purple, so.
And Nathan, you don't have to run again in 2020. You have a 4-year term. But when you get to Austin, it takes at least one Republican to work with the Democrats to block any legislation or get anything done. Who's going to work with you, or what are you doing to identify that Republican?
Yeah, I think they're going to reveal themselves to me and to others in the state Senate. I think the Senate is generally a pretty collegial, cooperative body when it can be.
How much have you seen the Texas Senate?
when it can be. I think in the past 4 years, I think a lot of what we're seeing in North Texas is a reaction to a not very collegial, productive Senate. And I think we now, if you are a Republican, I think there's room for you to move to the middle without fear of reprisal in the primaries. So that whole change in the environment, that whole change in the tone is going to allow any number of current state senators to work with Democrats without fear of being knocked out in a primary. So I think that opens the door up to several of them, not just one or two.
Any one of them is more important than lieutenant governor at this point, so we'll see.
Rhetta talked about the checkered district, her district being checkered. Yours is too. Carrollton, North Dallas are still red. Other parts on the eastern side of Dallas County too. Are those in play, or are those solid red?
I think they're very in play. And one of the things I've thought about this district since I got into it a year and a half ago is that this red-blue contrast is not particularly accurate. There's a depth of red, there's a depth of blue, and I really think this district is not nearly as partisan as people around the state think it was. So I think those red districts could easily turn blue, if you want to call it that color. A blue could turn red. It's all up to Rhetta and I and everybody else who goes down there to govern effectively to see how they turn out later.
And you guys have been running really hard the last 6 months, like every candidate out there too. What kind of legislation, though, have you been thinking about? Because bill filing opens up here shortly.
Sure, and I think you all both know we're going to have a speaker's race that we have to deal with.
We're going to get to that in just a second.
Okay.
Let's talk bill filing for a moment.
I didn't mean to jump the gun, but definitely to go in to advocate for public education, and I think we have to pick up where HB 21 did, and I think we have to look at the money that they felt comfortable on both sides of the aisle allocating, and pick up there. There was also a committee that was formed that we're going to have to look at the findings for public education.
And what do you like in the Senate, on the Senate side, Nathan?
Well, I think that there's great room for criminal justice reform right now. I think there's going to be bipartisan support for a bunch of very significant measures we can come get together and work on there. Public education will also be on the minds of the Senate. Hopefully we can work better with the House this coming session than we did last session. But as for bringing forth particular bills, I think any freshman going in there needs to recognize the reality, particularly if you're in the minority. You've got to see what other senators are doing, find out where there's room for you to work,
yes.
and where there's a place you can bring something forward that has a chance of getting passed, so you're not just standing in a corner by yourself with your bill. I'd like to actually be effective.
Nathan, two of the candidates in your district, both Senator Huffines and Representative Matt Rinaldi, wanted to do away with gun restrictions. They were for so-called constitutional carry. But the young voters who voted told us that two issues they voted on were immigration and guns. They're tired of mass shootings. What gun policy will you bring to the Senate?
Well, I think red flag laws are a great idea. I know the Lieutenant Governor has said any such policies dead on arrival. I hope he'll reconsider. But I think those are something that can be done within a respectful climate for gun owner rights, but at the same time provide some assurances to people who are worried, and some they have been shown to reduce gun violence and gun deaths. I also want to, I think part of our role is down there is to stop anything like a constitutional carry. Whatever we do pass, that's quite apart from stopping changes that make things even more dangerous. And I think most responsible gun owners, a vast majority of responsible gun owners, are opposed to constitutional carry.
Nathan, let me interrupt here too. Rhetta, final seconds here left. Which Republican who's running for Speaker could you work with?
Well,
give me a name in the final seconds here. Is there one?
I won't say, because I do believe I have to stick with our caucus on the way we vote.
All right.
So.
We will see what happens in less than 60 days here too. Nathan Johnson, Rhetta Andrews Bowers, congratulations on the win. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.